So today we are going to discuss about management of natural resources. So in this lesson, we're going to know the necessity of management of natural resources. So what is the necessity? Why do we need to manage the natural resources? Actually, we have studied about different natural resources like soil, air and water and their management in your lower classes in class 9 and 8. So there we understood the importance of these natural resources and their sustainable use, judicious use of these natural resources. If they are not used in such a way, what kind of consequences, what kind of problems are caused? So we discussed all such issues. Even we discussed about the pollution of water, pollution of air and other things. So now in this lesson, we are going to discuss about the other natural resources like forest, wildlife, coal and petroleum, minerals. So the earth, it is bountiful source of energy or materials. Everything we obtain, that is from the earth. So we get the energy from the sun, that is trapped in different forms. We not only need energy to survive, we need so many materials. So in one of your lesson, life process, we studied that there is a continuous movement of molecules through our bodies. That means we need to take some molecules from the external environment to our body, and from our body we leave some molecules. Movement of molecules, every organism, it does it. So we need supply of so many materials, minerals, not only for the use of our body, our cells, for our day-to-day life, for our comforts. We need so many materials. From where do we get all these materials? That is from the earth. So the earth, it provides various materials. What kind of materials you get from earth? Everything. So you are using books. You're getting your books from the trees. They are from forest. And you are using toys made of plastic or any other synthetic materials that you obtain from coal, that you obtain from soil. So what else we get? We get cloth. So we get the cloth from plants, again plants from soil, that is from the earth. We get synthetic fibers from coal and petroleum, again that is from the soil. We need some utensils to cook our food. Steel utensils, brass utensils, aluminium. So many metals are required in our house. That is for the construction purpose. That is for the kitchenware. So in this way, so much of metals are required. All these metals are from the earth, that is from the soil. So soil is the source of various materials. So all these are the natural resources which provides the materials to make objects that are necessary for our day-to-day life. But here, due to the increase in population, the usage of materials increased a lot, and the manufacturing of materials, the manufacturing of products or goods is increased a lot. So that is for the purpose lot of materials are required, and for these materials, these natural resources are overexploited. So this is a very big issue, global concern. So worldwide, there are many people worried about this overexploitation of the natural resources, which leads to very severe problems that cannot be rectified or corrected in short span of time. So we see news about global warming. We see news about the depletion of natural resources like oil. The oil prices are going up. And we see that the forests are decreasing. So by that, the rainfall is disturbed, because forests are the lungs of the earth. So which takes place an active part in the water cycle. So by that, there will be good amount of rainfall, good monsoon winds and all. But that is not happened because of the decreasing in the size of the forest. deforestation. So major problems are caused, and we think this is a very big issue. Then what is our part in this? So these are the very big issues. Those are to be solved at a very higher level, the United Nations organization or at the national level. Then what is our role, our participation? Here we can understand the root cause for all these problems, and we should understand how these natural resources are important and how can we prevent the damage to the natural resources. What are the various strategies if people follow or the government take the initiation by which we can manage these natural resources in a proper way and we can go for a sustainable growth. That means without causing much harm to the environment, we can make use of these resources, but we should keep one thing in mind, that we should leave some resources for the future generations. You cannot use up all these resources at a very high alarming rate, and you cannot produce lots and lots of waste, and you cannot dump it for the next generation. If you do so, the next generation will surely depend on garbage for their minerals or any other resources to make their products. So they will make all their products from the waste which we have produced if we do so. So we need to judiciously, properly, righteously use the natural resources. That is the concept explained in this chapter. So when there is a discussion about any issue, the people talk about that. Say for example, pollution of river Ganga. So when people identified or noticed that the river Ganga is being polluted, that is by the various pollutants left by the industries or factories from different states like Bihar, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, dumping all their pollutants, wastes, chemicals from the industries and household waste, sewage, the litter, everything is dumped into the river Ganga. So all these are drained directly into river Ganga, which polluted the Ganga water. Even the dead corpus, the dead bodies or half burnt dead bodies are thrown into river Ganga. So it is some other kind of religious aspect, whatever it might be, it pollutes the river drastically. So to a large extent damage is caused to the river Ganga. So when these kind of activities are done, so primarily it will be not recognized, that they think that it is a very minor thing, it simply just sinks in that large or huge amount of water. But many people doing that in a large quantity, becomes a large quantity. When huge amounts of wastage from all these states is dumped into the river Ganga, it becomes totally a polluted river. Of course, it becomes a poisonous river. That means consumption of water at particular or certain places is poisonous even. And it also contains very dangerous bacteria which can cause diseases, coliform bacteria, and lots of poisonous substances, heavy metals. Because industries, they use different kind of metals or materials, chemicals for various activities. You see the tanning industry. So to tan the leather, they use so many chemicals which are finally released into the river. So that kind of thing happened to river Ganga and it got totally polluted. So once it is completely polluted, to restore its natural condition, it will take very long time. It involves lot of people, and it takes lot of money. Thousands of crores of rupees are to be invested again to restore its original condition. So whose fault is that? Whose money is again spent? That is the people money. We are paying the taxes. So these taxes are all collected together and 2000 crores or 5000 crores. So the government spends in its restoration, purification. But here initially, why to pollute the river? Again, why we should spend this much amount of money? And people are not sure. Here Ganga action plan. So this action plan was started because of some issues raised by some people or by the discussions raised in that parliament. So by that, so this Ganga action plan, it has taken in 1985, by which the government spends crores of rupees to clean river Ganga. But even though the government spends thousands of crores of rupees, if people are not aware of their activities, if the government is not having strict rules to control the pollutants not to be released into the river, so they make certain standards to the industries, otherwise they cancel the licenses of industries, or every industry must be following the measures, proper waste disposal measures, it is not possible to control the pollution of rivers. So it is a very bigger thing. And what else we can do at our level? So we are talking that the people should be like that, the government should be like that, the industrialist should be like this. Then what about us, our case? How we should be? Of course, we are not maybe near to river Ganga, we may be near river Godavari or any other river. So the thing is that we can take certain act, we can take certain oath, that is not to cause harm to the environment, not to pollute the natural resources. So even at our level, we can start practicing the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. So these 3 things can be followed at our level, at your level. As a student, you can do this. You can reduce, you can reuse, you can recycle the natural resources or materials. So by that, your contribution will be counted. Everyone does that. So everyone's contribution, even though it is very small or negligible, when it is added in millions and millions, it will show a good impact. Even we also can bring a change. So how much big the problem will be if everybody's attention towards contribution, everybody involves, everybody participates in the idea of judicious usage of natural resources or protection of natural resources, definitely we can bring a great change. So before going to the next topic, just let us have a small discussion about the 3 R's, what you can do. The first one is reduce. So we can reduce the usage of natural resources, we can reduce the consumption of electricity, we can reduce the usage of water. What you can do? You can do that. You can reduce the usage of electricity. You can switch off the lights when they are not in use. So switch off the lights. Again, in these lights, you can do so many things. You can use CFL instead of bulbs. You can use CFL, or you can use LED bulbs that are available, and certain governments, they are providing these LED bulbs on subsidy. So by that, the energy is less amount of energy is consumed. So we can switch off to these LED bulbs, we can use the CFL bulbs, and when there is no use, you can switch off the light, and you can arrange some kind of ventilation to your house. So by the daytime, you need not use light. You can allow the fresh sunlight to come into your house, and by proper ventilation, you can save power. Using ventilation. So by these methods, we can reduce the consumption of electricity. And in the same way, water is the another important natural resource which we can use properly, judiciously. So you know all these in your lower classes you studied. Do not run the tap in the sink while you brush. So you are brushing, don't leave the tap open. Just you can take the water in a mug, and after finishing your brushing, you can use the water of mug. If you are simply leaving the tap for the whole process of brushing, you may be wasting 1 bucket of water. See how many liters of water you are wasting. In the same way, even bathing. So if you take a shower, if you use a bathtub, you're wasting a lot of water. And less water we can use when it is not needed, and we can check the leaks of taps. So if there is any leakage in the tap, you should immediately call your plumber, get it corrected. Otherwise, drop by drop, a lot of water is wasted. At least a bucket a day. So count how many buckets of water is wasted in 1 month or 1 year. So it will be a very large amount. So with these little or simple steps, you can take part in the maintenance or in the conservation or in the protection of natural resources. So this is the first one, reduce. Let us talk about reuse. Certain resources can be reused. We can reuse that. So what you can reuse? We can use various kinds of containers, glass containers or plastic containers or bags. Simply many of the food items or different items what we purchase in the shopping malls, they are packed in different containers. Once we take out the content, we need not throw the packing in the dustbin, because certain package material can be reused. For example, metal cans. For example, jam bottle, glass bottle. So the glass bottle, after you finish up the jam or honey, you can use the bottle to store some spices in your kitchen. So in this way, you are reducing the waste. You are cutting off the waste. So this is the reuse. We can add some creativity to the reuse. The old items can be well decorated. You can use them for decorating your house, or you can use them for different purposes. You see the broken buckets. The broken buckets can be used as a flower pot. You can grow a tree, or you can grow a small plant in that. Broken buckets or damaged or old buckets. Or tires. Tires are used in a different way, in a novel way, to decorate, and for play. You can make some swings for the children to play. So in this way, we can reuse the materials. Even the cloth, old cloth, sarees or something, they can be used to make bags, cloth bags. So these cloth bags can be used for shopping, so they reduce the usage of plastic covers, hand covers. So in this way, we can add our creativity to reuse the materials. Reusing a material is not a shame. Somebody may laugh at you. Why are you using that old drink can as a pen stand? You can say that, you can proudly say that you are taking part in the conservation of natural resources. You need not feel shy. If you are using any old item again in a new way, somebody may mockingly laugh at you. But you can proudly say that you are taking part in the conservation of natural resources. You are a very responsible citizen. You will be a very responsible citizen. You will be a very responsible student of India. You can say that, right? So reuse, the third one is, so reduce is the first one, reuse is the second one. You can see that recycle. Many of the materials can be recycled instead of producing a new one. Paper can be recycled, cardboard can be recycled, plastic can be recycled, metal can be recycled, glass can be recycled. Many of the materials can be recycled. So first you need to identify what materials can be recycled, segregate them. Say for example, your mother has thrown all the waste in one garbage bin. She might be not aware of certain materials are certain materials are recyclable, certain materials are non-recyclable. So you can segregate all the recyclable materials. You can sell them to the vendors, people who buy the waste papers, waste items, waste toys, plastic, iron. All such items are purchased by some people, because by selling that they get some profit. You can carry all these materials and you can get some money out of that. Not only that, you are contributing for the conservation of natural resources. If simply you dump all these things in the garbage bin, it is thrown into the garbage truck. The garbage truck carries all the garbage to one dumping yard. So everything will be dumped over there. So instead of that, if you segregate these materials like paper, plastic, metal and glass, these kind of items, you segregate, you separate them, and if you sell them there, they will be sent to the respective factories. Glass bottles will be sent to the glass factory, cardboard will be sent to the cardboard factory, paper will be sent to the paper factory, where they are recycled, and once again the product is made. So in this way, you at your level, you can contribute for the protection of natural resources, conservation of natural resources. So the next one, why do we need to manage our resources? What is the necessity? I told you, reuse the materials, recycle the materials and reduce the consumption of different materials or energy. Why? Somebody may think, why I should do that? Why should I reduce? I have money. I have plenty of money. I can buy anything. So I don't want any money to sell all this old waste. Simply I will throw. I don't have time to segregate this, to sell this at one point. So I don't have time. I don't have any necessity. Because I have money, I can buy new things at any time. Why I should reduce my comfort? I want it to be at my comfort. I write on as many papers I like. I write only one line in one paper. I have so many books. I can use as I like. So if this is the attitude, these decisions they are not environment friendly decisions. Even though you have good amount of money, even though you think that plenty of resources are available around you, you cannot take such non-environmental friendly decisions. Why? So here we are discussing why. Because one thing is that we are getting energy from the sun. Okay, energy is a bountiful source of energy, sun. Out of the energy, only a few part of the solar energy is consumed by us. And we not only require energy, at the same time we require energy plus materials, minerals. So materials are required, means minerals are required. We require carbon compounds, we require metals, we require coal, all these things to make day-to-day products. I already told you all your comforts, your sofa sets, your television set, and your house, your bed, your clothes, your utensils, your kitchenware, your cosmetics, and your personal wear, and your footwear, everything, your books, your bag, everything that comes from the earth. Energy comes from the sun. So we cannot think that whatever is coming from the earth is unlimited. It is limited. So earth has got all these things in a limited value, limited amount. You may think that everything is coming from the factories. Every day thousands and thousands of goods are produced. So you cannot think that they will produce it like that for a very long time. At some point they will stop. So they are mining for some iron, some metal, some gold, some copper. It will stop at some point. They are mining for petrol, diesel, that is a petroleum. They are mining for coal. They are mining for this natural gas. At some point it will stop. That means the amount of coal present in the earth is limited. One day it will be exhausted, finish. And the petroleum, one day it will be finished, over. So it happens, that means the natural resources are limited. We cannot think that unlimited. So as they are limited, we need to manage our resources. That is the reason. Because resources are limited. Certain resources, they are unlimited, but even then it takes very long time for the formation. Again and again they form, but it takes very long time, millions of years. So if you use all it in one day, you have to wait for a million years again to form. So that is the case. One thing is resources are limited. That is the reason why you should manage our resources. Second thing is that pollution. If you are using these natural resources at a very high rate in very less time, they cause pollution. Air is polluted, water is polluted. Deforestation leads to less rainfall. It leads to increase in the global temperature, that is the greenhouse effect. In this way, so many problems are caused because of the overusage of the natural resources. So one thing is the resources are limited, the other one is pollution is caused. So now we are going to talk about the another natural resource, that is forest and wildlife. So what is the link to the forest to us? Forest is a very important natural resource. There are so many products from the forest which we use in our daily life. Mainly wood that is used to make paper or furniture that comes from the forest. So forest is an important natural resource. The disturbance to this natural resource or over exploitation of this natural resource, it leads to so many problems. Many of you may think that, of course, I am not connected to the forest produce. I am not concerned to this forest because, of course, some of us may get some alternatives. Everybody of us use forest produce. Sometimes you may take some alternative. You may say that I am not using any wooden furniture, sir, I am using plastic. So I am not dependent on forest produce. I'm not using any herbal products. I use all synthetic products. So I'm not concerned. But some people that they have connection with the forest. So here when we are discussing the issue about the forest and wildlife, we have to discuss about the stakeholders. Means the people that are connected to the forest. Here we have 4 groups of people. See, who are they? The first one is tribals. Tribals or people who live in forest, who live close to the forest, who are living in the surroundings of forest, who make use of the forest product. At the same time, they contribute for the existence of the forest, for the protection of the forest. Those are the tribals. So they take very important role in conservation of the forest. Of course, they use the forest product, but they do not cause any damage to the forest. So the one thing is tribals. The second one is industrialist. So the industrialists are looking for the forest product. They wanted the wood. They want the teak from the forest. They want the pine from the forest. So they cut off the forest. So in the auction, they buy the land with the trees. They cut all the trees. So once some area is cleared, they go to the other area. They are not bothered what happens to the forest land which is deforested. So that is not their issue. So the second people, those who are connected to the forest, are industrialists. Some people, they wanted some forest land for some industrial purpose, for establishment, or dealing with the sale and purchase of the forest product. Those are the industrialists. The third one is forest department. So this forest department, it has the role of protecting the forest land and forest product. And if we see the other group, nature enthusiasts. Nature enthusiasts. So if you see this, these 3 groups, they have some benefit. Forest department people, while working for the forest, they get some payment as a salary. They are benefited. Tribals, as they are living in the forest, of course, they help the forest. At the same time, they get benefit from the forest. So their livelihood, everything is from the forest products. So tribals, they have benefit, and industrialists, they get very rich profits. They buy all the forest product or wood at very less price, cheaper price. They sell it at a very high price, and so they are very much benefited. So here, the last group, nature enthusiasts, they are not benefited by any way. Only thing is they have the curiosity, they have the interest of protecting the forest. So that is the reason these people are also concerned and connected to this issue, the forest and wildlife. So what is that necessity of conserving the forest and wildlife? So forest, it consists of so many plants. Forest is not a collection of plant and animals. It includes so many organisms, and all these organisms living together, interactions depending on each other. So it creates a diversity, various species living together. So this diversity, it is a symbol of ecological stability. If this diversity is lost, a particular area of forest is cleared, then what happens? Various animals living in that area, they get dispersed and they become extinct, and you may not be able to find those animals again. So we lose biodiversity. So the loss of diversity, it leads to loss of ecological stability. Ecological stability is lost. So the ecological stability is lost. It brings so many disturbances in the food chains, food webs. Certain organisms grow in large number, certain organisms totally disappear. So it leads to disturbance in the food chains. It causes so many problems. So first we are going to talk about the first local people, first group. The local people, in the sense, mostly the tribals, the people, those who are living in the forest or close to the forest. So in this case, we can find that judicious use of forest resources. These people do not cut the trees indiscriminately. They do not want large amounts of wood for construction of houses. they make small huts that are made with thatch, that is bamboo. They make very small tools for fishing with wood and bamboo. Fishing. And they gather the fruits and nuts. And they collect the firewood. So firewood, they do not cut any trees for firewood. They collect all the sticks, the dried sticks of the dried branches they collect. So these kind of things are collected, fruits and nuts are collected, and they make simple huts with bamboo. And even though they carry out certain kind of agriculture, that is called as jhum cultivation, they shift the agricultural land from one place to another place. They do not cut so many trees. And even again they plant the trees. And they see that the diversity of the plants is restored, is retained. That means they do not grow only one kind of trees for commercial benefits. So they do not disturb the diversity there. That is the main thing. And firewood, fishing, they collect honey, that is the product of the forest, fruits and nuts, and they collect the bamboo. So in this way, they collect various products from the forest. This is not over exploitation. At the same time, they contribute for the proper growth of the trees or other plants, other kind of plants, and they know the value of each and every plant, what are its medicinal uses and other purposes. They have a good knowledge of the diversity, or they have good knowledge about the various products of the forest. So even though these local people are living in contact with this forest, the forests were not disturbed. The forest land was not disturbed. The resource was not misused because they were using a judicious use of the forest resources. So they are not expecting more, just they are expecting or taking the things which are just enough for their living. They don't want to make millions and millions of dollars, and they don't want to keep any bank accounts. And they don't want to, they don't have a commercial view of the forest. But later what happened? The Britishers entered into the scenario. So after the Britishers entered, they took most of the land, forest area under their control, and these local people were restricted to small areas. So the small area of forest is allowed to the local people, and the local people are not allowed into the other area which is reserved. So not allowed. And these local people are allowed only to this area. Over exploitation. And the Britishers, they got the commercial view of the forest. They have so many requirements to keep the railway lines in India. So they need lot of trees. So which type of tree is required? So plant the tree, cut the tree. That led to monoculture. What is this monoculture? Growing a same kind of plant or a tree in particular land. So if it is monoculture, if you find only one kind of tree, you can't call it as a forest. You have to call it as a plantation. How can you say it is a forest? Plantation, similar kind of trees everywhere. There is no diversity. You cannot find different kind of plants, different kind of animals, different kind of organisms there. So that led to that monoculture, growing similar kind of trees, same trees. The trees that have good commercial value are grown there. So what happened here? It led to that overexploitation of the forest land, and it leads to the loss of diversity. So loss of diversity leads to loss of ecological stability. That point we have learnt here. So again, the independent India after freedom. So here let us see what kind of problems are caused by this monoculture, growing only certain trees like eucalyptus, or pine or sababul or sal. If they are growing only this particular kind of trees, then what happens? It leads to loss of diversity. So when it was in the control of local people, different kinds of trees, different kinds of plants are available. Local people are aware of the medicinal value of different plants. So once it goes into that monoculture there, the different variety of herbal plants are disappeared. So we are missing a lot of plants with wonderful medicinal properties, and the knowledge about the plants is also disappeared because of this monoculture. So loss of diversity, loss of knowledge about the medicinal plants. So we are separating the people. We are separating the people from the forest. So what happens? The people get separated. Actually, their life was in contact, intimacy with the forest. They know everything about the forest. So it was in a proper, sustainable manner. But later, when the people are isolated from the forest and the forest is completely under the control of British or completely under the control of government, so what happens? It leads to different methods like monoculture growing similar kind of trees. It leads to loss of diversity. So again, the industries, they grow only the trees that have high commercial value. They are not bothered about the land. So they grow certain trees, they cut certain trees at a particular place. Again, they go to the faraway place for that product. So they are not bothered about the growth of the new plants in that place. So they are not bothered what kind of effects are caused by this deforestation. So in such a way, it leads to the problems like loss of diversity. So the government recognized that. So when they are doing these kind of activities, it leads to loss of diversity. The government recognized loss of diversity is there. So the government started conservation of forest land. So conservation, initially the government started protecting. Yes, we have to protect that. These animals are becoming extinct. These days we are not able to see the lions. We are not able to see the tigers. We are not able to see the rhinos, elephants. So earlier they started protecting these big animals. But later they identified that it is not only the solution. Just protecting a tiger, just protecting some animal, it doesn't protect the diversity. So they have come to a conclusion that the total diversity has to be restored there. So they made the reserve forests, certain land, the forest with a different kind of animals and all, it is reserved, nobody should enter into that. But here the government, it is excluding the people from that reserve forest. But are these people, local people, are they not part of the forest? If those people are not there, what happens to the forest? So the people are the part of the forest. So when they are interacting with the forest, people are also a natural part of the forest. When the local people, they are interacting with that, the forest products can be properly utilized or used. At the same time, the diversity in the forest is maintained. So according to that, the laws made or the view of the government or the British or even the independent India's view about the forest is that the local people are exploiting the natural resources, and so the local people are kept away from the forests. But here, many of the instances, if we see the many of the instances, the local people, they helped for the conservation of the forest. We can take one instance here, Beshnoi community. So this community, they take part in the conservation of forest. It become a religious tenet in their lives. It's a part of their life, protecting the trees and natural wildlife. So you see that by recognizing this, what was the incident? In 1731, a lady called Amrita Devi, she sacrificed her life along with 363 members in protecting the Kejri trees in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. So this incident, it shows that the local people are very much bound to the forest. So they have a strong bond and relation with the trees and the wildlife in the forest. So they don't have any commercial view or idea about the forest products. They don't want to make crores of rupees from the forest. Simply they get their minimum needs and requirements from the forest. At the same time, they think the forest is their home and they look after the care of the forest. So because of this, every year the Amrita Devi Bishnoi National Award is awarded by the government for the conservation of forest and wildlife. In that area, this award is being given. So this instance shows the part of the people, the bonding of the local people to the forest. But even then, there are certain views that these people are exploiting the forest products. So these people are kept away. But in many other instances, it is proved it is wrong. It is not correct. One more instance we can see here, the prejudice against the traditional use of forest. Traditionally, there are some kind of traditions in which the people take their cattle to the forest to graze the grass. So here in the Great Himalayan National Park, the local people use it to carry their cattle to this Great Himalayan National Park to eat the grass. So the government, it's stopped allowing these people to bring their cattle for grazing. So what happened then? Earlier, when the people used to bring the cattle to the park, the cattle used to eat the grass, and it made the grass to bring new shoots. The grass used to grow again and again. But when they stopped bringing the cattle, when they were not allowing the people to take their cattle to this Great Himalayan Park, the grass, it grew very tall and finally it fallen, and there is no more fresh growth of grass. So they can consider this kind of things as a natural part. So thinking that this may harm a lot to the forest, it will totally disturb the forest. If that is the view, definitely you should look at the other area also. What is the other area? Why a lot of forest is cleared for setting up some industries? Why a lot of forest is cleared by selling the trees and the forest to some industrialist who is making furniture and selling the forest product at a very high rate? They are not even bothered about what happens to the land in which they cut the trees. So if you compare both the things, the damage caused by the industrialist, the damage caused by the commercial use of forest product, and the damage caused by the local people, obviously this is very low and less. In turn, the local people, they have a bonding with the forest. Definitely they contribute for the conservation of the forest. It is a part of their life. So it's all a tradition. They pray. Their gods are nothing but the trees and stones and animals of the forest. Those are their gods and goddesses. So they respect each and every part of the forest. They don't want to destroy it. So conservation of biodiversity, that means not protecting a tiger, not protecting an elephant, not protecting a rhinoceros. It is to protecting the whole, as it is, how it was in a natural setup. If that is done, the forests can be well, the natural resource forest can be well conserved. So now let us look at the sustainable management. Sustainable management of forest. Here we can take two instances. The first one, the first incident took place in 1970, which was called as Chipko Andolan. So it happened in a village called as Reni in Girwal in high up in Himalayas. So this was a place where this incident Chipko Andolan took place. Actually, it was a dispute between the villagers and contractor. Villagers, contractor. So what was the dispute here between the logging contractor and the villagers? Villagers, they don't want the trees to be cut down, because the villagers are based on the trees for firewood. That is, they are plucking the branches and leaves of the trees. Only the branches and leaves and other products for their use, and they are dependent on the trees. But the contractors, that is for the purpose of wood, they are permanently cutting down the trees. So once the tree is completely cut down, once the area is evacuated by cutting all the trees, so the survival of these villagers become questionable. So here the villagers, they had a clash with the contractor, and they did not allow the contractor to cut the trees in that village. So the forest which is close to the village. So here finally, because due to the attempts of these villagers, the contractor withdrew his idea of cutting the trees in that place. So this news, it spread in the communities. Because you see that there in the view of contractor, if the contractor had cut down all the trees, that place is evacuated, deforestation takes place. But whereas the villagers, they are not totally destroying the trees, they are simply depending upon the products of the trees. So here, with the involvement or engagement of the people in the management of the natural resource like forest would be more beneficial and successful when compared to the other means by making some laws or selling it to that or giving it to that industrialist or contractors. So they cannot maintain or manage, simply they take out the product from the forest. So they are not bothered about the other consequences and maintenance, restoration or reforestation. So all those issues are not taken into consideration for the people like contractors or industrialists. We take one more incidence, that is in West Bengal in 1972. So here what happened? The salt forest, it has got degraded a lot. Because of the government rules, the degradation, the people were kept away from the forest. So there is a clash between the government officials and the villagers. It led to that Naxalism. Naxalites developed in that area. So here the government changed its strategy, the forest department. So this happened in the place Arabari Forest Range in Midnapur district. So here a forest official named A.K. Banerjee, he made an agreement with the villagers. So the salt forest, it was very much degraded and useless. There is no commercial value to that forest. So he took help of the villagers. He asked the help of villagers to grow salt forest again in 1272 hectares of land. And he made an agreement to the people. He will allow the people to collect the fodder, and he will give some nominal payment to the people. They should help in the restoration of the condition, proper growth of these salt trees. So it led to a success in the year 1983. That forest area, it costed 12.5 crores. Earlier it was useless. So that was the benefit obtained by the involvement of the local people. So what this incident tells that, so what we can learn from this incident is that involvement or engaging the local people in the conservation of the forest will be successful. If you make some strict laws, if you make some kind of reserved forest and reserving certain area, without people, without the engagement of the local people, it would be not successful. So that is the point here. It has to be understood from this topic, that is the sustainable management. So now the next natural resource which we are going to discuss is water. So water is another important natural resource. In your lower classes, you studied about water pollution and how the human interventions causes the disturbance in the water, that is the natural resource. So here we are going to discuss about few points. First, let us look at what are the major concerns, major issues linked up with water. That is by the human intervention, that is by the human activities. The first thing is the water cycle is disturbed. Disturbance takes place in the water cycle. What is this disturbance? Actually, the water cycle, it happens naturally. It is a natural phenomenon. It takes place in a regular way. But because of the human activities like excess use of fuels, excess production of carbon dioxide, increasing the temperature of the earth, that is global warming, and all these leads to different phenomena like El Nino, La Nina effects. So by that the monsoon winds are affected and it affects the rainfall. So the water cycle is disturbed. And one more aspect is that deforestation, cutting down the forest. Forests are the lungs of the earth. The amount of the forest is decreased, the amount of the trees are decreased, so by that the transpiration rate is less. So less clouds are formed. So naturally less rainfall. So the water cycle is disturbed here. And the second one is water pollution. Already we discussed about this water pollution. So release of toxic chemicals, unwanted materials and all these things into the water bodies leads to contamination of water, pollution of water. So by that it affects the lives of the people, those who are connected, those who drink the water, those who use the water for other purposes. So in this way it affects our human life. And what is the other aspect here? What is the other issue here? Water crisis. Even though the government plans to construct very big dams, even though we have very big dams to store the water in the reservoirs and release in the times when it is needed for irrigation, there is a lot of scarcity for water. People are fighting. Different state governments are fighting for water. So what is this condition? And why this kind of situations were not there in the past history? If we go back to the dates of kings and kingdoms, then we can see that there was no problem. There was no crisis. Of course, they were only dependent on the rainwater. But they have so many measures and methods to harvest the rainwater. So once there is a rain, the people used to follow different methods to store the water in the ground. They have ponds and lakes and wells which are well maintained. So when they are properly maintained, the rainwater is harvested, the rainwater is captured into the ground, it is stored underground and it is used from the wells whenever it is needed. But later what happened? So later the new technologies have come, the new methods have come, the British has brought the approaches like building big dams. So people totally forgot about their local maintenance of the local water bodies. So people thought that it is the duty of government build the dams and it will supply the water. So supply of water is the duty of government. People totally forgot about their maintenance, local bodies, the local water body maintenance. It was totally forgotten. So now it is the big issue. What is that? Water crisis. So totally all the agriculture, irrigation, which is far away from the rivers and canals, the people are dependent on the groundwater. They are growing the crops which takes a lot of water even when they are not connected to any canal or river. Then how they are getting the water? They are drawing the water from the ground by putting bore wells which suck the water with the help of pumps. So these bore wells are dug 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 100 meters. So this much of depth. They are going 1,000 feet even. Sometimes they are going to 1,000 feet to draw the water. So in this way, the water is drawn out of the earth, the groundwater. Of course, we can take the groundwater and we can use it. But the thing is, we should see that it is recharged. Again, the water should reach the ground. That means we should have some measures by which the rainwater is sink down into the ground. So the groundwater must be recharged always. So if you are not taking any steps to recharge the groundwater, simply you wanted to use groundwater, what happens at one day? It will become extinct. So you won't find any water even though you go for more than 1,000 feet down. There is no use. So that is what happening in many places. Even though they drill lot of depth with the machines, they are not able to find even a drop of water. Because they overexploited the groundwater. Overexploitation, overusage of groundwater without any idea of recharging. So that is the water crisis. So in this lesson, in this section, we are going to talk about water management methods. The people, the villagers or the governments, they can follow certain methods to restore or to harvest the rainwater. Of course, the dams, they store the water in a large quantity and not only to supply in time of agriculture, the idea is to store the water so by that it get seep down into the ground, so recharge of the groundwater, and the water can be regulated and supplied, and even it may be used for hydroelectricity production. So in this way, with all these ideas, the dams were built, constructed. Apart from these huge dams, there are many other methods. There can be many other small constructions by which water can be harvested, by which water can be stored, by which we can prevent the wastage of water. What is the wastage of water? So when there is rainfall at one particular place, the water it flows downstream, you call it as runoff. So this runoff, it leads till where? Till it gets mixed in the ocean. So the water, it flows into the ocean. So you can make certain constructions, dams or bunds or something there in between. So by that, at every stage you can stop the flow of water you can preserve the water, you can store the water for some extent, and you can slowly release the water when it is needed, and you can supply the water. You can channelize the water to different areas, different crops. So by that the water can be properly utilized by these constructions. Let us see some of the constructions that are done in different areas of our country and how they are useful. So before we see the various harvesting methods, let us see the different reasons for water crisis. First thing is loss of vegetation cover. Loss of vegetation cover. Vegetation cover helps water to recharge. So the groundwater is recharged by vegetation cover. If the land is covered by grass, so by that the roots of the grass, they hold much soil, and the soil can hold much water. So the water holding capacity is more. So by that the water is reaching the ground and the level of underground water increases. So loss of vegetation is one reason for water crisis. The second one is diversion of water for water demanding crops. Let us take rice, sugarcane. So these are the crops that need lot of water to grow. So in some places the water is diverted to the crops which take a lot of water. So in that cases the other places may not get proper, no equitable distribution of water. And third one is pollution, releasing effluents, wastes into the water, also one of the problem for the water crisis. Now let us see. So these are the various reasons, and as I told you before, the local water management was not there. People are totally forgot the local management of their local water bodies. Recently we see in the state Telangana, so there is a program called as Mission Kakatiya. If we see that in the state of Telangana, so the government has taken the initiation of repairing the water bodies, tanks in the villages. So by that they can harvest the water. So you see, these kind of activities were done during the period of kings, and in their kingdoms they have taken every step, every measure to maintain these tanks, wells and other ponds, lakes, all the water bodies are well maintained. So by that they can harvest the natural water, that is the rainwater. But that is after the entry of the British, the scenario changed, as I have explained earlier. So they started constructing big dams. The people, they have come to a conclusion that okay, maintenance of water bodies is not our duty, and that is the duty of the government. So the government has taken the responsibility of building big dams and providing the water. So channelizing the water, water supplied through irrigation canals, and all this has come. So people totally neglected the local water bodies. So it led to water crisis. Now let us see dams. Okay, the British or the present government or the independent India, the government has built up so many dams. But now let us see whether these dams have solved this problem or not. They have constructed so many dams, but still there is a problem for water. Why? What are the issues that are linked up with these dams? One major thing is no equitable distribution of water. A dam is constructed at one place. So the water is channelized. To which areas these channels reach, that crops and that farmers will be happy. They will get the water. But there are some places which are far away from this dam, far away from the canals, they do not get any water. So no equitable distribution. The water is not properly, rationally distributed. That is not possible here. So some people get so many benefits, some people gets problem. They don't get sufficient amount of water. So the government it gives reasons, okay, you are in far away place and your place we cannot, the water can be supplied. You are at some height, higher place, higher than the level of the water flow. So you need to have some kind of lift irrigation to supply. It costs crores of rupees. So the government cannot provide water to certain areas because they are in higher level. So in this way there are so many problems linked up which causes the unequal distribution of water. So that is what happened in Indira Gandhi Canal in Rajasthan. So here the dam, it can bring greenery to certain parts of Rajasthan, but whereas in other places, some places there is no proper distribution of water. So this is what happens. And one more issue linked up with the construction of the dams is that evacuation of the area. Many people are living in that particular area are evacuated because to construct the dam they need very large area. So in this case they have to evacuate certain villages. Now at present we can see the issue with Polavaram in Andhra Pradesh state. So they are going to construct a Polavaram dam. So for this Polavaram dam they are going to evacuate certain villages. So what happens to these villagers? They will be given some promises that if they give their land, houses, their village, if they leave their village, so we will be providing you housing, we will be providing you this and that and this. The government make promises. But how far these promises are fulfilled, that is the another social issue linked up with. And how far it is good. In some cases while constructing the dams or reservoirs, these kind of projects, then they will be evacuating, at the same time they will be removing certain forest area. The forest area also will be submerged by water. So it leads to loss of diversity. Many animals become extinct or they may disappear from that area. So that is all happens because of this. So many issues are linked up with this. That is construction of big dams, huge project. So here we have to think that will this bring a permanent solution? Will it be a permanent solution? Will these dams and projects supply water to each and everybody? Will they cater the needs of each and every farmer? Will they cater the needs of domestic needs of water in each and every household? That has to be discussed here. So now let us see that once again just have a look at the problems that are caused by the dams. One is social problem, as we have discussed that it affects the lives of so many people. Those who are living in the vicinity of that particular area where the government planned to construct a dam, those people are evacuated. So by that the government make promises, but it is not sure whether they get all the benefits. And not only in terms of money, leaving their home, leaving their motherland and going to some other place is a very pathetic condition, and many people may not be able to digest it. So these are the social issues. And second thing is economic. So what is the economic aspect of this? Here, to construct a dam, thousands of crores of money is invested here. So from where does this money come? Okay, government spends it. From where does the government gets? It is the money of people. The people of a country pay the taxes which is collected by the government, which is used for different purposes like this. But here once a huge amount of money is invested in building a dam, how far this dam guarantees the upliftment of living standards of the people? So it is a questionable area, because we have seen what are the various problems associated with these dams. A dam may fail because it may not be able to properly provide the water to all the people. It may not be able to equally distribute the water to all the people. So justice is not done to all the people, but all the people's money is invested here. So the people contributed for this dam, which is useful only for a sector, a few people, not for everybody. And one more issue that it goes in countries, in our country we are seeing the other thing, corruption. Where there is a lot of money, then there is a word called corruption. So when there is an investment of thousands of crores of rupees, there will be a kind of lobbying. Every contractor, every person, every official, and the people, those who are associated in that, political parties, political people, everybody wanted to get benefit out of that, the huge project. So the corruption, people's money is wasted. So these are the economic aspects of the construction of dams. So social problems we have seen. Third one is, so social, economic, and third one is about environmental. What is this environmental? How the environment is affected. Loss of biodiversity. Forest area is cleared up, and sometimes they may remove certain hills and certain areas also. They level up certain hills. and they clear the forest. So all these leads to loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. So that is the reason you see that whenever there is the government announces that it's going to construct a big project there will be some opposition, agitations from different groups of people. Tribals, they say that we don't want to lose our land, and students, they agitate, okay, do not disturb these natural areas and do not evacuate the villages. And many people question that how far this dam is going to help the people and how far the benefits will help the people for the upliftment of the community, and what sector of people are going to benefit from this dam. And there are so many people who don't have any benefit out of this, even though the public money, their money which is paid in the form of taxes, is invested here. So now let us see the traditional water harvesting method. Watershed management is a very important aspect, and which helps to conserve the fertility of the soil as well as to restore the water, to recharge the ground. So here the soil fertility is maintained, soil erosion is prevented. Second thing is the water is stored in the ground. So the underground water recharge also takes place. So these two things, that is preserving the fertility of the soil and recharge of the groundwater, these two things, they contribute to the increase in biomass production. Biomass production. What is this biomass? Biomass is nothing but the amount of plant matter or animal matter, living matter on the area. If a ground is left barren and all the soil is allowed to erode, no water is recharged down, in such barren land you cannot find even a single grass. So there is no biomass. You take some 10 meters of such area, in the 10 meters there is no grass, no biomass. But if the soil is properly managed with the help of local watershed management methods, the soil fertility is maintained as well as the water content of the soil is also maintained. So it leads to increase in the biomass production. More biomass is produced. So this is a very ancient system. As I told you before, during the time of kings and kingdoms, they used to focus on the local water bodies, watershed management. Underground water, that is the dug wells as well as the tanks and ponds, allowed more vegetation. So by that more recharge of groundwater. So in different places in our country, we see different kind of methods, traditional water harvesting methods, in which we see this is a traditional water harvesting methods by using these khadins or bunds. Here these khadins are called as bunds, and these are called with different names in different states, but the purpose is same. This is to make some bund. By making this bund, allowing the water to stagnate here. So this stagnated water, it seeps down into the ground, seepage. So this is a khadin. It may be constructed with the help of brick, stones and mud, usually in the crescent shape like this. So it will stop the flow of water. So this is the catchment area. From here the water goes down. So when it is going down, it is stopped at this place. The water is stored here for some time. So by that it recharges, seepage takes place. So once here the groundwater is recharged, you get water in the dug wells, shallow dug well. From the dug well you can collect the water. So this is an example how the traditional water management methods work. But even now, this is the time for the governments and for the people to think for local harvesting methods. They should repair and develop their local water bodies. That is what we see in that. I already told you, in the state Telangana, they started Mission Kakatiya. So in this, they repair the old tanks and wells and other water bodies, local water bodies. So that is by the involvement of the local people. So by that they can harvest more rainwater for better irrigation, or at least for drinking water purposes and other. So they can improve their groundwater levels. So now let us look at the another natural resource, that is what we are going to discuss here, is that coal and petroleum. So coal and petroleum is an important natural resource. Here coal and petroleum are useful in two ways. One is as a fuel, source of energy. They are the major source of energy for the transportation. Vehicles run by petrol and diesel. which are obtained from petroleum. Coal is used to produce electricity in the thermal power stations. So these are the fuels, that means source of energy. Second thing is raw materials. These are the raw materials for synthetic objects or things. What does it mean, synthetic? Plastic. So we see so many synthetic materials, even cloths, even packing material, even utensils, everything is made out of plastic, and it's a synthetic composites. So it is a source of carbon compounds which have a special characteristic, that is non-degradable. So that character made the plastic is a good material for various purposes, in food, in healthcare, everywhere the plastics are used. These are all derived from coal. So these fossil fuels, the coal and petroleum, they are available in the earth's crust. But how far they'll be available like that? Okay, they are available, we are extracting them, we are using them, we are making so many products out of that, and we are using all these products for our comfort. But here, due to the increase in population, increasing demand for all these products, lots and lot of coal and petroleum are extracted and they are used like that. But definitely on one day they will be exhausted. So what would be the condition? What do we do that we give for the future generations? So that is the reason why these natural resource, it has to be used judiciously. Earlier, the usage of these materials was limited. But when this industrial revolution started, in the industrial revolution, the major invention was steam engine. Engines were invented. The engines are connected to the factories. The factories are mechanized. Everything goes in machines. That means some machine will run automatically by using some fuel like coal, steam. So it started using machines everywhere for transport, for production of goods, for transport of goods, for everything. So thereby the usage of this coal and petroleum increased a lot. So here the problem is not only the exhaustion of these resources, the another problem is when these resources are burnt to get energy, when petrol is burnt, diesel is burnt, other materials are burnt, they release so many poisonous gases. As these are carbon compounds which contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen sometimes, these gases are released into the atmosphere. The coal may contain sulfur which is released into the atmosphere, sulfur oxides, react with rainwater, form acid rains. Nitrogen react with oxygen and form nitrogen oxides, and react with rainwater may form acid rains. So they may pollute the air. They release compounds like carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, which is very dangerous. Carbon monoxide is more harmful compared to carbon dioxide. So this carbon monoxide is released in the smoke of vehicles which use petrol and diesel to run. So this carbon monoxide, it causes so many problems, health problems, headache, nausea, vomiting, and these kind of problems in the urban people. Those who travel in traffic for long hours, they are exposed to carbon monoxide. So their blood cells efficiency decreases in carrying oxygen. So by that leads to headache, fatigue, and so many kind of problems. They go under stress, which they cannot face the regular life activities. They feel they'll undergo a lot of stress and pressure. So everything happens because of the pollution. May leads to so many health problems also. So all this happens because of the burning of the fossil fuels. Burning large amounts of coal in industries releases so many gases, sulfur oxides into the air. So that is also a dangerous thing. And the release of a huge amount of carbon dioxide leads to global warming, greenhouse effect, because CO2 is a greenhouse gas. So in this way, the coal and petroleum, the resource, if it is not used judicially, it leads to all these consequences. So here we must understand the importance of judicial use of this resource, coal and petroleum, as like in water. So in this part, in this chapter, we have seen about the coal and petroleum, water and forest. So forest, water, coal and petroleum are the different natural resources which we discussed in this chapter. their proper management and judicial use, and what are the various social, economical, environmental issues that are linked up, and what is our responsibility, and what kind of awareness we must have, and what kind of decisions we should take, and what kind of options we have to choose for a proper management of these natural resources for a sustainable growth in a eco-friendly environment.